Today we're gonna take a look at 5 all-out warfare games that are supposed to be released this year and that could be possible alternatives to Battlefield, because they all provide large-scale battles, combine arms combat, tactical warfare and a sandbox experience. And we get right in with Hell Let Loose Vietnam, and this is the second title of the series and again puts a lot of emphasis on realism and tactical warfare. It takes the well-known Hell Let Loose formula with large-scale battles, combined arms combat, realistic weapons and locations, and a focus on teamwork, and moves it to the jungles of Southeast Asia. At launch, the game will feature 6 large-scale maps inspired by real-world locations and operations, 6 game modes with up to 100 players per match, different squads including infantry, recon, armor and helicopter, and within these squads, for the single soldiers, there will be 19 specialized roles to choose from. So think of it like classes if you haven't played Hell Let Loose yet, so there is riflemen, medics and so on. We can also expect to see 2 factions, the North Vietnamese armies and the US Armed Forces, and because of the nature of this setting, we can also expect to see asymmetric warfare, which means the US forces will have access to a huge arsenal of weapons and gear, including helicopters they can use for fire support or supply drops, while the North Vietnamese armies will be focused on stealth, traps and ambushes, and have the ability to build extensive tunnel networks for surprise attacks. The game will be released at some point during 2026 on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series, and if you want to know more about it, I've already done a full preview video that you can find in the info box. Next up, there is Gallipoli, and this game takes us back to the battlefields of World War I, or more specifically, the Ottoman fronts. This is the 4th installment in the World War I game series that is already well known for the games Isonzo, Tannenberg and Verdun. And just like these former titles, the new game puts the same emphasis on slow-paced gameplay, strategic combat, team play, realistic weaponry, historical gear and accurate locations. You will land on the beaches of Gallipoli, fight in the streets of war-torn towns, or try to achieve victory in no man's land. It also puts heavy emphasis on squad play and classes, with several different ones to choose from, like officer for example to lead your team, or a light machine gunner for suppressive fire. The 2 factions that will be available in the game are the British and Ottoman Empire, and you can also expect to see their historical weapons and uniforms. So if you liked Battlefield 1 and the atmosphere and historical immersion that it had, then Gallipoli might be the closest you can get to this again. The game is set to release at some point in 2026 and will also be available on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series. Moving on, we have Wardogs, a tactical all-out warfare shooter with a modern setting, and this is also not simply trying to recreate the Battlefield formula, but instead comes with its own twists and ideas. So Wardogs will feature large-scale maps set in the derelict industrial mountains of Eastern Europe. It will have up to 100 players per match, but split up into 3 teams instead of the classic 2. It will feature air and ground vehicles and destruction, and an objective-based mode that is an evolution of the classic King of the Hill mod for Arma. And on top of that, the game also features a progression and loadout system that is fully based on persistent cash. In-game cash, of course, not real money. So you are a mercenary, and with every action you do while you are on the battlefield, you earn cash. So for example, when capturing an objective or holding it, or when reviving one of your squad mates. And with this cash you can then buy loadouts for yourself or vehicles and equipment for your team. And this cash will also carry over from one game to the next. So you have an actual new and interesting twist to this all-out warfare shooter that doesn't only copy what others have done before, but it also brings something new to the table. Up next, there is more of a mode that is being added to a game instead of a completely new title, and that's the infantry mode of War Thunder. You know, the game that is usually known for realistic tanks and plane battles. But this new infantry mode is in active playtesting right now, and it features tactical all-out warfare with player-controlled soldiers, and of course also with vehicles, so the classic combined arms combat. But instead of large-scale open maps, it seems like they focus more on intense urban warfare with 40 to 128 players. The mode that is tested right now is similar to a small version of Battlefield's Conquest mode, with 2 teams fighting over 3 objectives. The people that played it so far describe it as similar to Enlisted, just with a modern setting, but also that it still needs a lot of work when it comes to combat flow, movement and aiming. Nonetheless, a boots on the ground mode like this could allow for a new perspective on War Thunder, and when done right, it could be a decent free-to-play alternative to Battlefield. And lastly, there is Glory to the Heroes, and this one is actually quite controversial, because what it does is that it portrays the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And there are playtests held as well right now, and from the gameplay that I've seen so far, it seems like the title has a very dark and gritty atmosphere. And it also seems to lean more towards hardcore shooters like Squad or Arma, with logistics, resource management, survival mechanics, and so on. It also delivers combined arms combat featuring many kinds of different military units and vehicles that are actually used in this war, and it is set in the real world locations of the actual battles. The developers are also writing that the vision for this game is to showcase the hell of modern day conflicts with intense artillery and trench warfare, but also with high-tech like drones. But the setting really makes this one a very sensitive and heavily debated project. So to sum this up, we have Hell Let Loose Vietnam with its focus on teamwork and scale, Gallipoli with a great atmosphere and immersion, Wardogs as a sandbox game with a lot of player freedom, the infantry evolution of War Thunder, and Glory to the Heroes that pushes realism to the extreme. Of course, none of those will ever replace or kill Battlefield, because we all know that the only thing that can kill Battlefield is Battlefield itself. But there are definitely some interesting alternatives on the horizon that are for sure worth watching. Tell me in the comments below which of these games you find interesting, and if I forgot one on this list, let me know as well. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman, and you are awesome.